Good evening, YouTube. My name's Dean Hanna. This video tonight is going to feature shaft 4. My clock has 5 shafts. Shaft 4 is the main one. It has the drum, it has the weights, where all the action is taking place. The first gear that I want to talk about here is the one with the ratchets on it. These obviously hold the weight of my clock. And these are now completely replaced, but I'm just going to show you these old ones. This is the older shaft, the older gear rather. You can tell from, if you look closely here, here you can see that this drum is made from a burl, and while the burl was very nice to look at, it actually physically was brittle. These are the 2 ratchets that I have remade. Now, these ratchets, like I said, hold all the weight, and this older style one had a bearing in it, and as you can see, it just has a timber plate that's glued to keep the bearing in. Now, at the time that was okay, but now I went back to remake it out of teak, and I just saw a lot of play in the gear. So when you hold the gear, there is, can you see that? A fair bit of play in it. Now I know it's not screwed down, but that's a fair bit of play. The other thing I noticed was that in my design I have 4 ratchets which sit in here. Now, because of the way I designed them, and I don't know what I was thinking, but these 2 holes that mount the pawls are actually not opposite each other. So in other words, I had 4 pawls and only one of them was holding the weight. That was a very bad design. So I'm going to put that aside now and get the new one. This is of course the new gear, which is a totally different design. The old one has 5 spokes. This one has multiple spokes in it. And what I'm going to do tonight is just take off. I'll show you what's on the back. It's a different design. You have these extra plates, which I'll talk about in a minute. But basically the same, 60-tooth gear, just a bit more material. I thought it'd be better to make it a little heavier. The clock was in fact racing. Now I'm taking this apart. Hopefully it's going to behave pretty tight. I'll just pause it for a minute because that is difficult. Okay, back again. Now, so it's got a little washer. Now this is the new design. These pawls now are opposite each other. Now that makes actually a big deal to my design. Take this off. Got a spacer here, a little spacer there, and then you've got the actual main gear. Now, the main gear has a bearing, but it has a whole aluminium bearing race, which sort of sleeve housing, I call it, bearing housing, which is held in from the back by 5 smaller socket head screws. These are M2.5 by 0.45. Don't know why that makes a difference, but it's actually a whole lot better, this design. Now, to get to that stage, there's all sorts of things that I had to do. I had to replace the whole shaft, had to make that shaft, the square shaft, it's got a square shaft on it. Had to make the whole thing from scratch, design it from the ground up. Hopefully here, I'll just take that away for a minute. Here is what I had to go through to get to there. It was a big journey. I made this one with a curved edge. I didn't like that. These ones were okay. These ones had like a larger bearing in it. Oh, no, so bearing in it went together like that. Had screws in it. These were like half ones I did to check out the geometry. I did this geometry quite a long time ago, so I could not remember what was what. So I had to redraw that again from scratch. These are some of the designs where the screws were incorporated, bolts were incorporated on the other side. Not sure why I didn't go with that, because I didn't think it was actually this was the design I went with, but I decided that a full-on aluminium housing was the way to go. These were sample plates. Look, lots of stuff. Not much else in here. These are ones out of timber. I did make one actually out of timber, as you can see, but it just chipped. So this was everything I went through to get to this final stage. One of the main considerations I had was that this new gear, the old one is in fact skinnier than the new one. I know you can see that comparison there. The old one, this one is 16. The teak one happens to be 18 and a half, and it makes a big difference. That it's almost 3 mil made a huge difference, which means I had to just move some other things in the design, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, we're just going to put this together. Really quite happy with this design, quite proud of it. This goes here on the top. Got that little spring. Now these are the paws. These rub up against there, and now I can actually adjust when they hit that surface. Putting this here, getting that. It sticks out just a nibble. I don't know, it's point. That shaft sticks out of there, point, I don't know, 0.5 or something, which is not very much. Put this screw in here. Now these are, to me, a really good design. I'm pleased with my work, but this I'm very pleased with. Now, in terms of play, very little, or a bit more play than there, but oops, this could need a bit of a tighten. Okay, now, turning over here. These are what I call the pawl synchronizers, and what they're able to do is that they're able to move, get a different screwdriver, able to move, and thereby you can tune them. And what tuning does is you can turn them and actually adjust the pawls inside. So therefore, each pawl is in fact loaded equally. So the weight of the clock is shared equally by those pawls. It's not a lot of weight, it's 16 kilos by the time you step down, not a lot, but it's quite a bit. This is called Shaft 4A, okay? That's that. Shaft 4B, this is the old Shaft 4B. Now, this shaft has bearings on it. It sits here, sits forward, if I can get it in, and it sits all the way there, and it just sort of sits there like that, right? Now, when I looked at it, when I came back to the design, I was not happy with the fact that this bearing was just sitting there. So once again, it's like I started to pull on the string and it just went on forever and ever. Here is the final design. Again, it's another thing that I'm quite proud of. The same design as the other gear. And again, it's got so what we have now is bearing plates. I'll just get those plates from here. Now the bearing plates, they actually keep the bearing in position, and they are settled with these very small screws. These are M2.5 by 0.45 screws. Take this off. These have what I call thread bullets. These little thread bullets accept a screw from both sides. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop this apart for you. This will be the last time this happens. Now, of course, when I started to assemble this together, I actually cracked this. This is not very, there's not a lot of meat here. Because this is teak, teak just it's very good for humidity, but in terms of toughness, European beech is a lot better. But we're going to go with teak. This cracked through here. So these three, I had to machine from scratch. And here is the crazy pile of ones I had to do on my CNC. It was, I don't know, it just took forever. Anyway, they're glued in there. They're very happy. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this apart, show you what's inside. This, of course, you're seeing the final product. This has taken, these two gears alone have probably taken 3 months, I think. And this is all on shaft 4. Shaft 4 had to have some other, I've got to be careful because these bolts are a little bit different. Let's just pull this apart. Now, try and keep these in because this is a fully asymmetrical design for these bolts. These bolts were not even, and there's a reason for that. Now, as you can see underneath there, what you've got is you've got a plate which has got holes, and they are on the other end of that plate for the front. So the bearing gets held in by the plate. And inside of there, you can see a little plate in there. I'm not going to take that apart because it's very painful. These 3 holes are not equal. And the reason for that is they were running close into this screw. So that is the reason for that. Now I do have a blue mark. Hope I can figure it out which one it is now. Should be this one. Let's see. Otherwise, it's going to be painful. This should slip down here. Let's see where it is. Oh, it just slipped out. Hang on a minute. I'll pause it. Everything's fallen out. Okay, off camera, of course, the thread I put in there is stuck its nose out in terms of hanging out over there. So that's it. That's disassembled. Bearings are nice in place now. Now this is the 60-tooth plate, and we're going to get some what I call thread bullet screws. These were, now of course, these should be spot on because I did them on the CNC, but it turns out that some of them I'll just see if I can get it spot on. That's pretty good. All right, let's put some of these in. And I'm very excited because tonight, or maybe tomorrow now, because I'm getting on in the night, but I'll be able to assemble the clock for the first time and have this together. This will be good. This will be a milestone. These ratchets took forever to design. Let's just get them in. Let's pause it. I'll pause it and we can get to the other side. Okay, look, that's that side done. There's a tiny bit of a misalignment, so they're not. Some of them aren't, screws aren't happy. I'm gonna put this one on here. Screws are going in there like that. So these are sitting very well. Oops. Crikey. Gonna pause this again. This is boring. Okay, final tighten of these 2.5mm screws. Surprising how tight these 2.5mm thread, how much force it can develop. It's quite impressive. Right, so that's that assembled, finished. So now we're going to put this together. Fairly sure this should just sit like that. I have this spacer here. I have that spacer. So of course, I don't think that goes there, and for this. Actually, no, we don't. Nope, that's actually this way. That one goes in there. Oh, that's up against there. Oops, just pause it for a minute again. Okay, a bit more fine tuning, but we're basically there. Okay, so now we have, I need this spacer here for that. This is the spacer for the what? Well, this is the cluster. Quite a significant, very significant piece of hardware in my clock. Should go together. Let me just tiny bit stiff. Okay, so basically the way it works, hope you can see it, that this one is meant to, oops, this one is entirely meant to freewheel, which it does, and the drum will be pinned to this main shaft here. Sorry, that's the ratchet. The drum will be pinned. This cluster will be pinned to this shaft. Okay, look, thanks for watching. I will post a video of it assembled and working, and thanks for watching. Okay everyone, here is the finished clock with the 3 now major gears in teak finished and complete. More later when we can figure out the constant velocity drive, which I'll talk about a bit later.